Let's see, for the shoot, I'm going to need this, that, camera. Oh, what's up? How's it going? Why are you? Well, I mean, it makes sense for you to be in the camera shelf. Let me guess. Tech news, right? Don't worry, I got you. I didn't forget. I know it seems like I did, but don't worry, I didn't. Hold on just a moment. And I just want to remind you guys before we get started into today's tech news that if you like this kind of content, make sure to give it a like, subscribe for future stuff. And if you want to get the news a little bit sooner than the usual, you can always come join me on Twitch. I stream every Tuesday and Friday. If things change, you can always check on the socials that are down below. Find out the rest of the news, shall we? I can't snap with a camera in my hand, so we'll just do a weird cut. I don't know. We'll figure it out. All right, we have our first topic up for the day. We have the much anticipated, or maybe not, depending which camp you're in, the AMD Radeon 6700 XT was just recently announced on March 3rd. AMD revealed most of the spec, not quite all of it, but they were announcing that it's coming out on the 18th for everyone. And thankfully, they're also going to be releasing concurrently with their AIB Apple board partners. It's going to be a nice change from the previous, where they released their reference model first and then the AIBs came 2 weeks later. In this case, we'll have as many units on the shelves as possible when that comes out. It looks like they're pulling out the big guns. We see Sapphire pulling out Nitro series. We see Asus having their Strix models. XFX bringing their Merc 319 from the looks of it. We'll see plenty of models, it looks like. So hopefully their claim of being able to produce more of them compared to the 6800 and 6900 series, it holds up, but we shall see. Another thing is coming at a very nice price point of $480, so it's about $20 cheaper than its competitor, which it seems to be fighting up against the NVIDIA 3070, it looks like. So they're aiming primarily at that 1440p market, going strong. They're leaving 4K up to, you know, their 6800 and 6900 series and duking it out with NVIDIA up there. That's going to be very nice to see. And yeah, hopefully we'll have some reviews soon. I believe the embargo is is the day before, so you'll end up seeing reviews before they go live on sale. So you'll be able to review, which I please look at the reviews before you pull the trigger and buy, just so that you know which ones to buy and if it's worth your money or not. Yes, I know everyone's desperate. They want a new GPU, they want the new Navi, they want the new Ampere, but do take a look at the third-party reviews. Make sure to validate what AMD is claiming, just in case. And speaking of AMD, that brings us to our second subject, and that's going to be about Zen 4. Yes, we just had Zen 3 release, and we're having a bloody hard time finding it and keeping track of stock. But we have some rumor mill on the Gen 4, this Genoa architecture for enterprise. So that's the Epic series. We're seeing potentially a quite insane leap. They might potentially be doing a 50% increase on the number of cores that they're doing per CPU. So that's going from 64 cores and 128 threads to 96 cores and 192 threads, which is ridiculous for one CPU. That's just one CPU. Remember, Epic can run 2 CPUs potentially, depending on the architecture or depending on the particular CPU. So we have potentially 2 96 core CPUs that can run in tandem. So we have an architectural uplift. We'll have also a core uplift. We'll probably have a frequency uplift. We have a slight thermal increase. We have a slight die increase. So it's going from the SP4 socket to the SP5 socket. We're going to have a socket change. And also we're changing from DDR4 to DDR5. So potentially these can go take their memory frequency all the way up to DDR5 5200. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works in the enterprise market. And then also there's going to be 128 PCIe Gen 4 lanes available, and up to 160 for the 2 CPU motherboards as well. So lots of cores, lots of lanes. Some pretty insane stuff happening potentially in the enterprise stuff, which, if you don't know, enterprise stuff, it hits first and it trickles on down to us. So it's going to be really cool to see what we end up getting from all of this. I'm very curious to see what Threadripper will look like in the future, if this is the potential future that they have. And on some other CPU subjects, we have topic number 3, and this is coming from a non-tech. Non-tech managed to get a hold of a 11700K early. Yeah, that's Rocket Lake. It's supposed to be released in a month, and I guess a retailer must have accidentally sold some a little early. So a non-tech managed to get some, or managed to get one to test, and Dr. Ian Cuttress managed to put it through its paces, but also let Intel know they managed to get hold of one, and they made sure that any of their testing from the samples that they were sent, that crossed over. They didn't break any of their NDA stuff, other than just like, hey, this is data we're getting from this retail unit that we got, just as a heads up, and can we publish this? And it was given the green light, so they're all good. So they managed to run it through some tests, ran through a motherboard. They didn't disclose what motherboard and what BIOS or any of that, so that's still under NDA. Didn't break any of it, but it was the most recent BIOS revision, and everything was about as up to date as it could be at the moment. However, it's still not the actual retail BIOS, nor is it, nor do we know what, again, motherboard and different motherboard manufacturers have different tolerances, etc. There is that variable as well. Driver changes tend to happen right at release as well, so keep in mind, keep that in mind when looking at the graphs too. Now, here's the thing, diving actually into the review. One thing that was very interesting is that we were hoping that Rocket Lake would deal with some of the heating issues that we were running into a little bit with the previous generation. However, it seems to be quite the opposite, and we seem to have had the heat problem increase and it drawing a lot more wattage than it was previously. No, this is not due to the claimed 19% IPC increase. Most of that is due to the faster L3 cache that it happens to have versus its previous generation, the 10th gen stuff. So for 10th gen, if you're on 10th gen, I wouldn't, according to these graphs at least, I wouldn't stress about upgrading at this point. If you're someone who's looking to upgrade from 6th gen or 8th gen or 7th gen, one of those 3 or earlier, you're looking at 11th gen, obviously wait till reviews, wait till they actually release, but I would just wait for them to go up, which means the 10th gen will go on sale. And it seems that the 10700K and the 11700K seem to be running about the same, much similar performance. And honestly, if that's the case, might as well go for the cheaper option, right? Things that some of the spec that we do know already, just as a heads up for those who aren't familiar with the 11700K, is that it is an 8-core 16 thread. It's supposed to boost up to 5 gigahertz and also be about 125 watt TDP. It does seem that its peak draw at the moment with the BIOS, remember TDP and watt draw are 2 different things, especially peak watt draw. But in the testing, we were seeing the peak watt draw nearly came to almost 300 watts, which is much higher than a lot of other consumer CPUs. That's something we'd see more along the lines of enthusiast market for overclocking, like the 10980XE, for instance, draws a lot of watts. That'd be an instance where it's like, okay, that makes sense. But for consumer stuff, that high of a wattage draw is very uncommon and kind of strange. So keep that in mind. You might need, if this does still hold up, for this watch draw still continues. Once the final release happens, you might need to reassess your power supply as well if you are dead set on buying a new one. But please look at the graphs. The link will be down below. It is a very long article and it is very informative. Please go read it. It'll be linked down below in the description. Continuing on CPUs, we actually have topic number 4. This one's coming from sort of an odd one, and it's sort of unfortunate news for some people. We're going to be talking about the M1 chip from Apple. Apparently, miners have now adapted their computing algorithms to work also on M1 chips. And so they're now potentially also looking at MacBooks as well. So if you were looking at Apple as an escape somehow from all the mining insanity, you're like, don't worry, you're safe. You'll be with me. It's okay. Yeah. Nope. Not even Apple safe. Not from the miners. Not in this case. So, bonus for those who have your MacBooks already, your new M1 Macs. I hope you're enjoying them. Make sure to keep that crazy malware off of it, because that's an interesting bug. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I believe Ars Technica has an article you can go look up if you're curious about that kind of stuff. But anyways, so just as a heads up, yes, not even the M1 Macs are safe. So I'm not sure if they're going to decide to go ahead and go after Macs as well, but it seemed like a poor ROI considering they're primarily using GPU computation in order to do it, and the M1's GPU is, I mean, it's good for an internal GPU, definitely, but versus a dedicated graphics card, I doubt it. So I don't know if this will necessarily affect sales price or sale availability, but just be forewarned if all of a sudden stock disappears overnight, that is why. And we come to our last subject, also in regards to mining, interestingly enough, but also in regards to GPU. I swear it's not a trend, by the way. GPU just happens to be important news at the moment. I swear. Anyways, so for this one, we are actually talking about the rumored 3080 Ti. Yeah, we've talked about it previously. We've talked about 3080 Ti's on stream, which if you want, talk about upcoming news and whatnot, you can always join me there, of course. But in this case, we're having another leaked rumor, shenanigans in that regard, saying that 3080 Ti is also going to have the same mining limiter that the 3060 has as well. So the 3060, the rumored 3080 Ti, and the rumored 3070 Ti will all have the mining limiter. So hopefully we'll be able to have more GPUs for the general consumer as well. Now, some other specs you may or may not want to know is that it is going to more than likely be running a cut down GA102 die. So that's the same die that's used in 3090, and also running 12 gigs of GDDR6X. There's going to be two more gigs than the 1080, but not quite as hefty as the 3090. Want to sit nice in between, and probably will have that perfect amount or sit in that Goldilocks zone. Unknown on pricing, of course, but it'll more than likely probably be in that $1,000 range if I had to guess. And that's it for the tech news for this week. I hope you enjoyed. That was your top 5 of things you need to know for the week. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure to like and subscribe for more future content so you get notified as soon as it goes live. Also, if you want to talk about this stuff live, you can always join me on Twitch as well. And if there are any changes or any things you want to talk about, all my other social links are down below if you want to contact me that way. And with that, that is all for today. That's all for this video. Have a blessed day night wherever you guys are, and I'll see you guys in the next piece of content. Peace. I don't remember lines. Oh, that was disgusting. Spaghetti. Anyways, that's ending up in bloopers. Just as a heads up. Need to fix my life because it decided to be weird. One moment. I completely lost track of what I was saying. I had a thing. There was a thingy. Wait, more there ain't.